The arrival of the inevitable. The Carathian Empire's flagship, Eternal Subjugation, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a predator stalking its prey. The vessel stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its obsidian hull adorned with the trophies of 100 conquered worlds. Inside the command bridge, Commander Vexillar studied the blue-green world that would soon become the Empire's newest possession. Vexillar stood 9 feet tall, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the bridge's amber lighting. 4 arms moved independently as he manipulated the holographic displays surrounding his command throne. His species, the Carathians, had evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. That evolutionary crucible had forged them into the galaxy's most feared conquerors. Analysis complete. "Commander," reported Lieutenant Zekthau, his subordinate's voice resonating through harmonic frequencies that would have shattered human eardrums. "The inhabitants call their world Earth. They have achieved basic spaceflight, minimal orbital infrastructure, and their military technology appears to be several centuries behind our own." Vexillar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. This would be easier than expected. The Empire had conquered civilizations far more advanced than these humans. Species with antimatter weapons, quantum shields, and stellar engineering capabilities had all fallen before Carathian might. These primitive beings with their chemical rockets and nuclear weapons would offer no meaningful resistance. "Have they detected our presence?" Vexillar inquired, watching as more Carathian vessels emerged from hyperspace. Within hours, 500 warships had assembled, each one capable of reducing a continent to molten slag. "Negative, Commander. Their detection systems are quaint. They still rely on electromagnetic radiation and primitive gravitational sensors. Our stealth fields remain uncompromised." Vexillar considered this information. The Empire's protocol was clear: offer one chance for peaceful surrender before beginning the harvest. It was not mercy that motivated this policy, but efficiency. Intact infrastructure and a compliant population were more valuable than radioactive ruins and extinct slaves. Open a channel to their leadership. All frequencies, all languages. Let them know their new masters have arrived. The message that played across every communication device on Earth was simple and direct. Vexillar had delivered it to dozens of species, and the script never changed. "Inhabitants of Earth, you have been chosen for the honor of joining the Carathian Empire. Your resources will fuel our expansion. Your labor will serve our needs. Your culture will be preserved in our archives before its erasure. You have one planetary rotation to surrender unconditionally. Resistance will result in the complete sterilization of your biosphere. This is the only warning you will receive." The response came faster than expected. Within 3 hours, a transmission arrived from something called the United Earth Defense Council. Vexillar settled into his command throne, expecting to see terrified primitives begging for mercy or attempting futile negotiations. Instead, he found himself looking at a human female with steel-gray hair and eyes that held no fear. Admiral Rosa Martinez sat behind a simple metal desk, her uniform crisp and her expression almost amused. "Commander Vexillar of the Carathian Empire," she began, pronouncing his name perfectly despite never having heard Carathian spoken before. "We received your message. We've reviewed your terms. We've analyzed your fleet composition, estimated your technological capabilities, and run approximately 7 million combat simulations." Vexillar's 4 arms twitched involuntarily. How did they know his name? How had they analyzed anything through their stealth fields? Admiral Martinez continued, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We must respectfully decline your generous offer of enslavement. However, we would like to make a counter-proposal. Leave now, and we promise not to follow you home." The bridge of the Eternal Subjugation fell silent. In 5,000 years of conquest, no species had ever responded to the Empire's ultimatum with such casual dismissal. Vexillar's crystalline exoskeleton flushed deep purple with rage. "You dare mock the Empire?" he snarled, his harmonic voice causing the communication system to squeal in protest. "We have conquered species that had achieved stellar engineering while your ancestors were learning to create fire. We have weapons that can crack continents and poison stars." Admiral Martinez's smile widened. "Yes, we know. We've been watching you for quite some time. Did you really think a civilization capable of detecting quantum fluctuations at the subatomic level wouldn't notice 500 warships parking in our backyard?" She leaned forward, her expression becoming serious. Commander, I'm going to share something with you that might save both our species a considerable amount of trouble. Humanity has a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. You've conquered peaceful civilizations, advanced but complacent species who had forgotten how to wage war. We, on the other hand, have been perfecting the art of warfare since we learned to throw rocks. Vexillar's tactical officer interrupted. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the human homeworld. They appear to be everywhere. In their cities, their oceans, even their polar regions. The readings don't match any known weapon signatures. Your scans are detecting our insurance policy, Admiral Martinez explained, somehow aware of what was being discussed on the Carathian Bridge. Every major population center, every military installation, every seemingly innocent satellite and space station is equipped with something we call a quantum entanglement bomb. If Earth falls, we've arranged for some very interesting reactions to occur in whatever star systems our conquerors call home. Impossible, Vexillar roared. Your technology level doesn't support such weapons. Our publicly observable technology level doesn't support such weapons, Martinez corrected. There's a difference. We've been aware of galactic civilization for the past century. We've been listening to your communications, studying your tactics, and preparing for this exact moment. Did you never wonder why, in a galaxy teeming with life, Earth seemed so isolated? We've been very careful about who we let see us. The tactical officer's voice carried a new note of concern. Commander, 3 of our scout ships have stopped responding. The vessels sent to investigate Jupiter's moon system. Martinez glanced at something off-screen. Ah yes, that would be our Europa facility saying hello. You'll find that many of our installations have teeth. Commander, I strongly suggest you recall any ships approaching Saturn as well. The ring system has been particularly well prepared for visitors. Vexillar stood from his throne, his full height making him tower over his subordinates. You think your primitive tricks can stop the full might of the Empire? We will burn your world to cinders. You're welcome to try, Martinez replied calmly. But consider this. We've had nuclear weapons for less than a century, and we've already figured out how to weaponize quantum entanglement, manipulate gravitational fields, and hide an entire planet's military infrastructure from the galaxy's most advanced sensors. Imagine what we'll come up with when properly motivated. She paused, letting her words sink in. We've studied your empire extensively, Commander. Your last 17 conquests followed identical patterns. Overwhelming force shock tactics and the assumption that technological superiority guarantees victory. But you've never faced a species that spent its entire evolutionary history turning disadvantages into strengths. We're persistence predators, Commander. We don't win by being stronger or faster. We win by never ever stopping. Another alarm sounded on the Carathian Bridge. Commander, we've lost contact with 7 more scout ships. Different locations, simultaneous loss of signal. Vexillar's 4 hands clenched into fists. This was impossible. No primitive species could challenge the Empire. And yet, one more thing, Commander, Admiral Martinez added. We've been broadcasting this conversation on every frequency your Empire uses. Your subject races are watching. They're seeing the mighty Carathian Empire hesitate before a single, primitive world. What do you think they're thinking right now? The implications hit Vexillar like a physical blow. Even if he crushed Earth, the damage was done. The Empire's reputation of invincibility had been challenged. Subject races across 100 systems would see weakness where none had existed before. You've made a grave error, human. When we finish with Earth, there won't be enough of your species left to regret this defiance. Admiral Martinez stood, her full height unimpressive by Carathian standards, but her presence filling the screen nonetheless. Commander, you still don't understand. We're not defending Earth because we think we can win. We're defending Earth because we know you can't afford to lose. Every ship you send against us is one less defending your empire. Every moment you spend here is a moment your enemies grow bolder. And every victory we achieve, no matter how small, proves that the Carathian Empire can bleed. She smiled one last time, and there was something in that expression that made Vexillar's exoskeleton crawl. We don't have to defeat you, Commander. We just have to make victory cost more than you're willing to pay. And trust me, we've gotten very good at being expensive. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the eternal subjugation in stunned silence. 500 warships, the pride of the Carathian Empire, floated at the edge of a system defended by a species that should have been cowering in fear. Instead, they had smiled, And somehow, that smile was more terrifying than any weapon Vexillar had ever faced. When predators become prey, assault began at what humans called dawn over the Pacific Ocean. Commander Vexillar had spent 3 days analyzing Earth's defenses, and what he found defied all logic. The humans had no visible orbital defense platforms, no planetary shields, no massive weapon installations, just thousands of small satellites, commercial space stations, and what appeared to be obsolete communication arrays. "Begin the bombardment," Vexillar ordered, his voice carrying the weight of 5,000 years of Carathian military doctrine. "Target their major population centers. Show them the price of defiance." 100 Carathian destroyers moved into position, their plasma cannons charging with enough energy to vaporize cities. The first volley would target New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, and São Paulo simultaneously. The psychological impact would shatter human resistance before the real invasion began. The weapons fired, beams of superheated plasma racing toward Earth at significant fractions of light speed. They should have struck their targets within seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma beams curved. "What in the void?" Lieutenant Zekthu gasped, watching as the deadly energy streams bent away from Earth like water around a stone. The beams dispersed harmlessly into space, their energy dissipating into the cosmic background radiation. Before Vexillar could respond, every piece of human space debris within 1,000 kilometers suddenly accelerated. Old satellites, spent rocket stages, even flecks of paint began moving with purpose. They weren't heading toward the Carathian fleet directly. Instead, they formed patterns, geometric arrangements that made no tactical sense. "Commander," the science officer reported, her voice strained, "the humans have activated some kind of field generation system. Each piece of debris is acting as a node in a massive network. They're creating artificial magnetosphere pockets around their planet." Vexillar's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Clever, but it won't stop kinetic weapons. Launch the asteroid redirectors. If energy weapons won't work, we'll simply drop rocks on them until their shields fail." 20 Carathian ships deployed massive gravity manipulators, reaching out to the asteroid belt to grab multi-kilometer rocks that would serve as planet-killing projectiles. It was a tactic that had ended civilizations before humanity had invented writing. That's when Earth's true defenses revealed themselves. The moon, Earth's singular natural satellite, suddenly blazed with energy signatures. What the Carathians had dismissed as a dead rock was actually the largest weapons platform humanity had ever constructed. The entire lunar subsurface, excavated over decades in secret, housed a weapon that human scientists had dubbed Project Lighthouse. A beam of coherent gravity waves, impossible according to Carathian physics, erupted from the moon's surface. It wasn't aimed at the fleet. Instead, it swept across the asteroid belt like a searchlight. Every rock the Carathians had been pulling toward Earth suddenly reversed direction, accelerating back toward the manipulation ships at velocities that shouldn't have been possible. Evasive action. Vexillar screamed, but it was too late. 20 ships were pulverized by their own weapons, turned into expanding clouds of debris by the very asteroids they had tried to weaponize. Admiral Martinez's face appeared on every screen in the Carathian fleet simultaneously. Somehow the humans had overridden their communication systems entirely. "Commander Vexillar," she said conversationally, as if discussing weather rather than warfare, "I should mention that we've spent the last 50 years seeding our entire solar system with what we call sleeper mines. They're quite ingenious, really. Microscopic machines that attach to any vessel passing through their area, completely undetectable until activated. By our count, your fleet has collected approximately 17 billion of them." Vexillar's blood ran cold. He immediately ordered full sensor sweeps but found nothing. If the human was telling the truth and he had no reason to doubt her anymore, his entire fleet was already compromised. "What do you want?" he asked, hating the defeat in his own voice. "Want?" Martinez laughed, a sound that somehow conveyed both amusement and menace. "Commander, we want you to understand something. Humanity didn't survive by being the strongest. We survived by being the most adaptable. When we were prey, we learned to become predators. When we were weak, we learned to use tools. When we were divided, we learned to unite. And when we discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we learned to hide." She gestured to something off-screen, and new images appeared on the Carathian displays. Images of human history, wars, plagues, disasters, and every time humans rebuilding, adapting, overcoming. Your empire conquers through fear and overwhelming force. But fear only works on those who have something to lose. Humanity, we've been one bad day from extinction for our entire existence. We've stared into the abyss so many times that we've gotten comfortable with it. You threaten us with death? Death is an old friend. Suddenly, space around the Carathian fleet erupted with activity. Thousands of human ships appeared as if from nowhere. But these weren't the primitive vessels the Empire had expected. They were small, agile, and each one bore weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Impossible, Zekthau exclaimed. Where did they come from? From right under your noses, Martinez replied. Those obsolete communication satellites? Each one houses a compressed ship in a quantum storage matrix. Those commercial space stations? Military installations with holographic camouflage. That debris field? The scattered components of the largest distributed weapon system ever created. The human ships didn't attack. They simply surrounded the Carathian fleet, waiting. Here's what's going to happen, Commander, Martinez continued. You're going to leave. You're going to return to your empire and report that Earth is not worth the cost of conquest. You'll tell them that humanity has weapons beyond your understanding, which is essentially true. You'll recommend that Earth be marked as a quarantine zone, off limits to all Imperial forces. And if we refuse, Vexler asked, though he already knew he had lost, then we activate those 17 billion nanomachines attached to your hulls. They won't destroy your ships immediately. Instead, they'll start converting your hull material into a substance that releases a very specific pheromone. Are you familiar with the Devourers of Sigma Draconis? Vexlar's exoskeleton turned pale. The Devourers were a semi-legendary species of space-dwelling organisms that consumed metal and organic material alike. They were drawn to specific chemical signatures across light years of space. You're bluffing. Even you wouldn't unleash those monsters. Commander, we weaponized our own moon. We turned space junk into a planetary defense grid. We convinced the galaxy's most powerful empire that we were primitive, while building weapons that violate your understanding of physics. Do you really want to bet on what we would or wouldn't do? The bridge fell silent. Vexlar looked at his tactical displays, showing 500 of the Empire's finest warships held at bay by an opponent that shouldn't exist. Every simulation, every projection showed the same result. Even if they won, the cost would be catastrophic. There is one more thing, Martinez added. We've been monitoring your Empire's communications for decades. We know about the rebellion on Kepler 442b. We know about the Zephyrin Alliance massing on your eastern border. We know that this fleet represents 30% of your total military strength. Can you really afford to lose even a fraction of these ships fighting us? It was checkmate, and everyone knew it. Vexlar had two choices. Fight a battle that would cost him dearly even in victory, or retreat and preserve his forces for the real threats to the Empire. What guarantee do we have that you won't attack the Empire if we withdraw? Martinez's expression softened slightly. Commander, humanity has no interest in conquest. We just want to be left alone to explore, to grow, to make our own mistakes. But we've also learned that the universe is full of bullies who mistake kindness for weakness. So we prepared. We didn't build these weapons to conquer. We built them to ensure that anyone who tried to conquer us would regret it. She stood again, her bearing military straight. You have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal. Any ships remaining in our system after that will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. And Commander, when you return to your empire, make sure they understand something. Humanity is done hiding. We're stepping onto the galactic stage and we're bringing all our evolutionary baggage with us. We're paranoid, aggressive, innovative, and absolutely relentless when threatened. But we're also capable of friendship, alliance, and mutual benefit with those who approach us as equals. The transmission ended, leaving Vexlar with the hardest decision of his military career. Pride demanded he fight. Logic demanded he retreat. Around him, his officers waited for orders. Their faith in Carathian superiority shattered by a species that had turned weakness into strength. All ships, Vexlar commanded, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Begin withdrawal procedures. Set course for Imperial space, Commander? Zekthau questioned, disbelief clear in his harmonic tones. We came here expecting prey, Vexlar replied, watching as Earth grew smaller on the display. Instead, we found predators who had learned to hunt hunters. There is no glory in feeding ourselves to beasts that smile while they devour you. As the Carathian fleet entered hyperspace, the last thing their sensors detected was a message broadcast on all frequencies from Earth. To all species listening, humanity extends an invitation. We seek trade, knowledge, and peaceful coexistence. But let this be clear. We are no longer hiding, we are no longer afraid, and we will never kneel. Approach as friends and find in us loyal allies. Approach as conquerors, and discover why we are the only predator species that hunts for sport. The Empire had sent their best. Humanity had smiled. And in that smile was a promise that would echo across the galaxy. Earth was no longer helpless, and those who failed to recognize that would learn a very painful lesson. Back on Earth, Admiral Martinez watched the Carathian fleet disappear into hyperspace. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers, but she remained focused on the tactical display. "Ma'am?" Her aide approached. "Should we stand down the defensive systems?" "Negative," Martinez replied. "Keep everything active for another 72 hours. And Lieutenant?" "Yes, Admiral." "Begin Phase 2. It's time to make contact with those rebellious systems in the Empire. I think they might appreciate some new friends." The aide grinned. "Yes, ma'am." "The enemy of my enemy?" "Is a future trading partner," Martinez finished. "The Carathians taught the galaxy that might makes right. It's time someone taught them that clever beats strong every time." As Earth's defenses remained vigilant, humanity took its first real step onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or conquered, but as something far more dangerous. A species that had mastered the art of survival and was ready to share that knowledge with anyone willing to learn. The Empire had expected sheep. They found wolves. Wolves that smiled, planned, and never forgot that the best defense was making your enemy afraid to attack in the first place. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Commander Vexlar composed his report to the Empire, knowing it would change everything. Humanity existed. Humanity was ready, and humanity was waiting for the next fool who thought Earth would be an easy target. They would be waiting with a smile,